Welcome back to taking the Gembloux Gap. Well, we're in game 5 and still on the first scenario. Those who've played a lot of the Gembloux Gap campaign will know how difficult this is, and the Germans certainly have found that challenging. So we're going to see whether we can get through the French on the 5th occasion. Okay, for those who have watched the first 4 videos, and indeed those who want to just get straight to the action, then the time at which the first phase is played is coming up on the screen now. Right, to go into a little bit of detail, the game itself, if you're the first time to see it, essentially what we're playing here is that the Germans are approaching this area, this village, and they're looking to fight through Perbe and to knock through the French, get through onto the next part of this campaign. It's May the 15th, and it's been obviously a lot of German success, but we've been halted here at part of the what is the Belgian line by the French, and we want to progress further forward with some aggressive action. Now, we've had 4 engagements already, and the Germans have been held back. It's prompted a change, which has been a second platoon coming onto the board, and in addition we've also in the last game had the support of armour. Now that's slightly different from the actual campaign as it's written, but really we're struggling to get past the French. One of the reasons being is that this table is 8 foot by 3, so in actual fact it's a bit narrow, and it doesn't allow the Germans as much flexibility in terms of attacking on the flanks. So you'll see on the map, on the diagram that you can see on the screen now, how that makes it a little bit narrow. So we've made some changes for the Germans and added armour into the equation. Without further ado, let's take a look at the Germans for this game. In the last battle, the senior leader, the supporting senior leader, was killed, so we have a new senior leader, but Otto is our main character here. He is still in command. Now, as far as his CEO is concerned, he's not awfully happy, and at -5 it means that we lose a support point, and the men aren't that happy either. So on the force morale we lose 1 point also. A quick look at the force itself. The HQ platoon, we have our senior leader with a submachine gun, we have Otto with a pistol, and we have our 5cm mortar. Now normally it has 3 crew, here we only have 2, and I'm going to explain why. The replacement platoon who came in got an absolute battering in the last engagement, so from 3 squads we're down really to 2. So we've got 2 full squads, which is an MG34, 3 crew, 6 rifles, and an NCO with a submachine gun. And you'll see there at the back we have 2 men on a machine gun and 1 junior leader. So the fact that we took such casualties in the last game is that we had to remove most of that squad. So I've pinched one of the men out of the mortar team, that's why it only has 2, added it to the machine gun, and we've got the junior leader. For support, the Germans have got 17 points. By now they would normally have 18. As I mentioned, the senior leader has lost 1 point due to the morale, so we've got 17, but there's still plenty here. So we've spent 5 points with a Panzer 4, and we've spent 4 points on a Panzer 2. Short on infantry, we've got another squad, so that's another 5 points. And at the background there we've got a shabby Nazi trick, that's 1 point, and the mortar team that I'm noting there is because we've also got a pre-game barrage, so that's 2 points, which takes us up to 17 in total. The plan is also a fairly simple one. We're going to try and use 2 flanks. We've got tanks supported by infantry, or infantry supported by tanks, 1 either side here, to advance both sides of the road, and to see if we can move further up with 2 of our squads, 1 in reserve, and we'll see how the French might want to deploy. Right, well, we've had lots of focus on the Germans, but in actual fact this really is a story of French success. So let's take a look at the forces. Well, it's a story of the success of Hugo Lloris. His commanding officer at a score of 7 sees him as a hero, and we have 2 extra points for support, so the French still have 5 points. The men are very happy. We haven't had a great deal of difference in terms of factors there, but in terms of how he's gone on, he's been excellent. The only downside is that we've had quite a few NCOs killed in the action, but as we stand, we come into the 5th engagement and he's very much in control. Look at the HQ unit. We've got a VB team, so we've got a junior leader with 3 VB rifles there. We've got our inferior senior leader. He has a command similar to a junior unit with only 2 command initiatives and a smaller radius. And then if we look at our forces themselves, they are slightly depleted but not by a great deal. We have our machine gunner, and so the first 2 units there are 5 men, the machine gun team, supported by 4 rifles and with our NCO. And then if we look at the unit at the back there, we've got 3 men for the machine gun and 4 rifles, and we have 1 NCO there. Now it's a new NCO. We've actually had 2 new NCOs in, but what I've done is after the 4th game I upgraded the first new NCO, so now he has a standard junior leader command. But the one at the back there is the single officer who has just 1 command initiative. In terms of French support, I have 5 points, and I was a bit undecided about whether to use the 75mm gun or stick to the 25mm, which ultimately what I have done with 5 crew and a junior leader. That's 3 points, and it gives us 2 points to use the boys with 2 crew. In terms of strategy, it's slightly more different for the French this time round. In the previous 4 engagements, they've used the building here at the back, which was destroyed by the 2 tanks in the last game. So both buildings there, and indeed this one here, will now be light rather than hard cover. So we'll have to see where they deploy. They may move slightly further back. We've still got buildings here. However, the only disadvantage is that there's no windows in that one. So we'll have to see how they go on. In the last game, we had a lot of engagement over on the far side here, and ultimately there was a lot of, well, let's say, ill luck for the Germans in terms of the junior leader and the role there. So I don't think that's going to happen exactly the same this time, so I'm not quite sure that'll be the same for a strategy. But as we have in the past 4 games, the French have always come out on top, and we'll see whether that's the case in this one. Right, so we're going to start with the patrol phase, and just quick focus here on our markers for the French, which are the cavalry. So I really like this unit, and always nice to use as a good patrol marker. I'm using the Fallschirmjäger that I got from Fixed Bayonets. So yeah, this is the markers we use for the Germans for their patrol. One thing we need to do before anything else is the force morale, remembering that we have one deduction for the Germans, which is the black dice. So some good rolls though. So the French will start on 11 and the Germans on 9. Right, so it's the start of the patrol phase, and for those who are new to chain of command, it means that we're now moving to a point where both forces can get to a point where they feel safe for the start of their engagement. So we get towards each other, towards the centre of the table. So for this game here, the French have a higher force morale with 11. They set the team originally, the patrol force, 18 inches from the edge of their board. They need to be within 12 inches of each other, and they will move, and each time you move in 12-inch increments, if you like, and but they need to be within 12 inches of each other. One of the four markers needs to be within 12 inches of each other as we go. So let's start from here. Very quickly, the Germans start at this end. All four of the markers are from the same point. And so with the patrol phase, we are done. So if we look at what is the far left flank of the Germans, we've got one of our French patrol markers here, and then further along to about 12 inches we've got our German there. So they are locked down. When you get within 12 inches you can't move. That's the idea of the patrol phase, so that both forces would realise that there's danger, and so they hold back at that point, but they know that they can deploy, and we'll go on to the jump off points in a moment. We have so we've got our French move there, we've got our German here, so we've got that for the patrol marker, another marker here, and finally we've got one over on that side, and locked down here by another French marker. So if we sort of stand a little bit further back, we can see essentially we have a line for the French up here in the around about the middle, and then the Germans, we are connected with one point here, and we've got a building along the further line, the other side of the road, and on that far side. Now the next stage is to do jump off points, which is essentially the secure point at which we can then start to deploy our forces. Now the way we deploy jump off points, they must be a minimum of 6 inches away from the enemy and also behind cover. And the way you calculate it for each particular point is that you use the two closest enemy patrol markers. So in this instance we've got our two markers here for the French, and if we look at this particular German here, the other German marker, we would cross over, at which point they can deploy 6 inches further back if we wish. So the first point of cover is that tree over there. So we could set up there if we wish. Now you'll also note that we've actually got 4 patrol markers, and we want to actually set up only 3 for our jump off points. So let's take a look at that, both for the French and the Germans, and see where we finish. Right, so very quickly we can try and work through this. The Germans, you'll see on the left hand side there was the patrol marker, and 6 inches behind it is the jump off point, and we can do that because it's right on the board edge. The second jump off point for the Germans is over here, which is 6 inches back from, if we can just see above there, we've got our German marker, and it's behind cover, so that's the second one, and the third is right over on the other side of the board there. So we've got 6 inches back from the German marker, and we've got the jump off point there by cover, but it's actually again right next to the board edge, so it can be positioned there. The French are our defenders, so although we have our French patrol markers there, the actual jump off points have come quite a way back. Now it gives them really every angle to put in. So we have one jump off point here behind the cover of this building. Now I did say it was soft cover. It would be soft cover if we're in front of it here, so where we have the hedge. However, if we're standing behind that building, it's going to give yourself some hard cover, unlike the one on the other side here. Here's another jump off point by what are essentially 2 shattered buildings, so that's really going to be some light cover there. And finally the third, it's back in this building, so this is going to be the final jump off point, and yeah, if this game goes all the way to the wire, we can imagine the French retreating back here to its final defensive position. And there we have it. That's the setup for the game, which is the 5th in the campaign of the Gembloux Gap. I've gone into a little bit more detail, conscious that we might have some new viewers, so also new to Chain of Command, so I've tried to set that out in a little bit more detail. So without further ado, let's get to phase 1. Okay then, so Thanks for watching the game, and for me the very best part, which is phase 1, always the attacker here. It's the Germans, so let's see how they go on. And that's 5, so we've got 1 for the chain of command dice, 1 or 2 1s, a 2 and a 4. Right, with the 1 and the 2 we've brought on the tank, which is the Panzer 4. It's on Overwatch. I've marked it with a bolt action dice, but yeah, 6 inches in from the road. 1, I've brought in the 5cm mortar. Bring anything on with the 4, which would have been the senior leader, so it's the French phase. And straight away a double phase. Right, at this stage I'm just going to pass on that and have a second phase. You'll notice I roll 4 dice rather than 5 for a second phase. I reduce it by 1, it's just a house rule. See if we can build up some chain of command dice. Yes we can, and it's just 1. I'm not going to do anything with the 3 4s, so it's going to be a German phase next. German phase. And 2 4s, a 1 and a 2. Right, with the 1 and the 2 I've brought in the Panzer 2, and again that's also on Overwatch. Back to the French. Another 1 for the chain of command, so it takes us up to 2, and then a 1 2 3 4. Could have brought in some French, there were good numbers there, but I don't want a shooting match with the Germans at this stage, so it's over to the German phase. So we've got 3 for the chain of command dice, takes it up to 4, a 1 and a 4. Over to the French. 1 more to the chain of command dice, taking it up to 3. And we've got a 2, 3, or 2 2s, a 3 and a 4. Not going to do anything with that, but we're halfway up to chain of command dice, looking to end the turn for this pre-game barrage from the Germans. German phase, see how far they can get a deployment. Well, that's handy. So we've got 2 points for the chain of command dice, that takes it up to a full chain of command dice. We've got a 4, which will be a senior leader. Not too sure about bringing that on, but we have another phase for the Germans. Well, we've no problem about bringing in increasing the chain command dice. We've now got 2 for a second dice. Got 4, which will be a senior leader, and a 2, so we can bring on a section. Right, with a 2, I've brought this support squad on, and it's come on, and it's yeah, it's tactical, and it's the French phase. The chain of command dice taken up to 4. And a 2 3 4. Again, we've got early targets that the French could come onto the table and fire at, but we'll choose not to. And crikey, more for the chain of command dice. We're up to 4 on the second dice for the Germans, and we've got a 1 and a 4. Many 3s for the Germans. So anyway, we're over to the French phase. Another 5 for the chain of command, takes us up to 5, and a 2 3 4. For the German phase. And not surprisingly more chain of command dice, so it's up to 5, and then a 1, 3 and a 4, so slightly more helpful in terms of movement. Right, with the 3 I'm going to move the Panzer 2. We're going to go flat out, so we can go 3d6, and we get an additional 1 inch per dice, so it's an additional 3 inches. So see how far forward we go. So we get 15 inches in total. Right, with a 4 I've deployed the senior leader. I didn't really want to bring one on in this way, but the fact that I have now makes me think that I've now missed opportunities to move troops earlier whilst the French are getting closer to end the first turn. So it's going to order this unit to move forward just tactically over the hedge. Okay, French phase, and we're up to 1 for the full chain of command dice. I've got a 2, 3 and a 4. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with the other dice other than the 5, where I'm going to end the turn with a full chain of command dice, which means we're on to turn 2, but it means there's no pre-game barrage from the Germans. Right, German phase. 2 for the chain of command, so we're now onto a third dice, and we've got 2 3s. And move both tanks, so we're going to start with the Panzer 2 going flat out, and we've got 16 inches. Panzer 4 is going to go slightly more cautiously, but it's going to go up onto the road, so 2 dice for that, 4 inches. Back to the French, double phase, 2 5s, so the new chain of command dice and a 3. Now the temptation for the French with the 3 is to bring in an anti-tank gun. We've also got a double phase, so it's the French next. However, the Germans can also interrupt, and my thought is that if I bring out an anti-tank gun to fire, then it doesn't have any infantry around it if it's going to be a question of taking casualties as well. So I'm going to hold off and have a second phase instead. So 4 dice for the French, 5 for the chain of command dice, and 2 4s is no good for me at all, because I'm not just going to bring a senior leader on. So actually that's been a poor decision on my part. Now it's the German phase. Lots of options I think there. So we've got another dice to take us up to 2 in the 3rd chain of command dice. 2 3s and a 2. Okay, so with a 3 I've brought in this machine gun. It is actually of a squad. If you remember right from the start, we talked about they lost so many men from the previous battle. So we've got a junior leader here with it who will put it on Overwatch. Well, the 3 is that we're going to move this Panzer 4 down the road, and with one of the commands we'll have it on Overwatch. And with the 2 we're going to deploy a unit moving out of this jump off point. Right, so we can now see that this unit's going to move out moving tactically, supporting the tank and vice versa. And then here this tank didn't move very far, but it's now on Overwatch. French phase. 5, the chain of command, so we're up to 4, and we've got 1, 2 and a 3. Right, lots of things happening with the French. Let's take it on a 1, 2, 3 basis. So we have the AT gun, we've deployed that. It's going to fire over towards or at the Panzer 2. And 2, we've also brought on the VB team. They're going to fire at the German squad who are over here. And finally we have 3, we have a deployment of the machine gun team, the rifle team, who are also going to fire at the same target. However, we're going to see if the Germans interrupt first. Right, I'm going to spend a chain of command dice interrupting. I'm going to fire with this squad because it's got the greatest firepower, rather than fire with the tank. Now when we're firing at the French, we'll just have a quick look at our target. So if we're targeting our French here, the reality is they're all within 4 inches of each other, so therefore, although we're interrupting, we're going to have to share the casualties. Right, we've got 14 dice, needing 5s to hit. We've got 1, 2 hits. Well, we were aiming at the AT team, so we're going to have 1 will hit them, so it's going to be the white dice, and we're going to have 1 on the rifle team as well on the black dice, and it makes no effect. Right, after all that, we're going to fire with the AT gun at the Panzer 2. That's a miss. We'll fire with the 4 VB launchers. It needs 5s and 6s to hit. Half effect in the first fire, and that's nothing. Right, this time we've got the machine gun team, the rifles, 13 dice firing at the squad who opened fire a moment ago, needing 5s. Looks like 3 hits. That unit are no longer tactical because they fired, so therefore I'm going to say the blue dice are on the machine gun team, green on the rifles, and no effect anywhere. Right, last thing that we have is that we have the tank on Overwatch, which is going to fire at the French. Now the Panzer 4 is on Overwatch, so it can fire. We've got some options. It has a coax machine gun, it has a hull-mounted machine gun, and it also has its main gun. So I think we would fire with our main gun, which is 6 dice, rather than 8, which is the coax. However, it's more effective in terms of high explosive. And it's 6 dice with the hull-mounted machine gun. The main gun, which is 4 5s and 6s to hit, and that's 2 hits. Machine gun team, 1 on the rifle team. The white dice is the machine gun team, and that's 1 point of shot. Machine gun needs 5s and 6s, That's 3 hits on the machine gun team, 2 on the rifles, 4-5 will be shock, 6 to kill. And we've got 2 points of shock on the rifle. After all that firing, we haven't had a single casualty. Right, it's now the German phase. Chain of command dice, up to 2 on the what is now second dice. We've got lots of options now, 2 3s, a 2 and a 4. Right, well the Germans have a 2 3s, a 2 and a 4, so I think we're going to get quite a lot of fire on this building here since the French have deployed. So with a 2, we're going to fire with this squad first of all. With 4, I've got this senior leader, so I think we're going to fire with the mortar there at the back and potentially move this machine gun team. We've got the first 3, so I'm going to fire with the main gun and with the whole machine gun. And the 3 over here, so we're going to do the same. So this could be quite eventful. Right, starting with the squad, we've got 14 dice, which is the machine gun and the rifles, needing 5s. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. Right, so we're going to split it up this way. So we've got 1 dice for the VB team. 4, that's a point of shock. 1 on the AT team. 1, that's nothing. 2 on the machine gun team. 1 dead and 1 point of shock. And finally the rifle team. 2 points of shock. Let's check if it's the leader. Yes, it is. Okay, so it is the leader, and what happens to him? Loses 1 point of command, so it takes a light wound. But we need to check and see what happens in terms of a bad thing. It's a 4, which I think is a -1. Yeah, it's a -1, so the French are down to 9. Right, moving around the board, we'll go to the mortar team next. 2 dice needing 4, 5s and 6s. No effect. The other thing I was doing with the senior leader was moving that team, so where they've moved down and out of that building. Right, next is the Panzer IV. So we've got the main gun, which will fire first of all, so it's 4, 5s and 6s. That looks like lots of hits, so that's 5 hits. Right, split across the 4 teams again, so we'll start with the rifles. It's no cover now that it's high explosive, which means you've got 1 kill and 1 shock. Machine gun team, 1 kill. Anti-tank team, no effect. And the VB team, 1 point of shock. Need to check whether it's the leader, whether it's a 1 or 2. No, it isn't. Okay, the rifles in here are now pinned on 5 points of shock, but we've got the whole mounted machine gun needing 5s. That's just 1 hit. And it's no impact at all. Panzer II firing. 4, 5s and 6s needed. And we have 3 hits. 1 on the rifles. That's 1 killed. 1 on the machine gun team. Another 1 killed. And on the AT team, nothing. Is it the leader, 1 or 2? No, it isn't. Now at that point the rifle team is down to 2. It's got 5 shock, so it will break. That's 2d6 plus 6. So it's 14 inches. Last thing is the... Actually, we can't fire the hull mounted machine gun. It's not in the arc of fire. Actually, the Panzer II will move. So it'll move a total of 7 inches. So need to roll a bad thing for team breaks. 5 is going to be a -1. Just correcting an earlier error. The French, of course, started on 11. So when they lost their first morale, when the leader was hit, it should have gone down to 10, not 9. And now that we've lost another one, it goes down to 9. Right, okay, it's a French phase. I think it's the first time I've done this campaign and thought that the Germans are very much on top of the game. So let's see how the French respond. 1 to the chain of command dice takes them to 5, 1, 3 and 3. Maybe we'll see the anti-tank gun coming. Right, we've got the I've got 2 3s, but I've got a 1, so certainly I'm going to fire with the boys at the Panzer 2, firing at the front of it. Let's see if we hit first of all. 5, I think, is a miss. Yes, 5 is a miss. It's a small target, so let's see what we do with the 3s. Right, well, with the first of the 2 3s, I'm going to deploy the 25mm gun behind this building, get some cover from the Panzer 4, but so we can fire at the Panzer 2. Okay, let's see how we go. 6, need to check that. Okay, so it is a hit, and therefore it's 5 dice for an AP with the French gun, and it's 2 for the armour. So 5s and 6s both looking for. So the French have 1, 2, 3 hits to the Germans 1, so that's 2 higher. So net 2. Let's see what the consequence is. At a 3. Right, so it's the with a net 2 and a 3, we take 2 points of shock on the tank, and also the junior leader is wounded, reduces down to 1 for command initiative, and also it's a bad thing. 6 might be a -2. That's correct. So the Germans have gone down to 7 on force morale. And with the final 3, the machine gun team in here will fire on this squad as they advance. Right, so 8 dice needing 5s. It looks like 1 hit. They're in the open, so that's 1 point of shock. Okay, so German phase. So we got 2 2s, a 1 and a 3, so a few options. Right, with the 2 2s, I'm going to use the senior leader here. He's going to order the first section to move, and he's going to move with it. And we're then going to have, so that's 1 order. We will then have this unit fire, and then we will move, I think, at half effect, or take a point of shock off. I'll make a decision on that one. With the 1, we're going to fire the mortar. And then we've got a 3. Now I'm tempted to use the Panzer 4, however, I'm going to move this Panzer forward because I want to get out of the line of sight for the anti-tank gun here, because if it knocks it out, it's going to be another impact in terms of a bad thing happens. Right, so the tank will start there. It's going to go flat out, so we're going to have 3 dice plus 3. So it gives us 12 in total. Okay, so the Panzer 2 has moved 12 inches up here. German mortar, 2 dice, needing 4s. And not only is that a miss, but I think a double 1 means that they now run out of ammunition. Right, and then we're going to finish here. I'm going to fire with the whole section and then take off a point of shock once we've moved our troops over here. Okay, 2d6 normal move, so we've got 9 inches. Right, okay, so we're going to take the point of shock off, and then we'll fire with 14 dice. Okay, 14 dice needing 5s. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. So with 5 hits, we're going to have 2 on the machine gun team, 2 on the anti-tank team, and 1 on the VB team. VB team first. There's no effect. Anti-tank team. That's 1 point of shock. And the machine gun team, another point of shock. Okay, French phase. 2 points for the chain of command. 2 2s and a 4. Chain of command now got a full chain of command dice and an additional 1. Right, with a 4 I'm bringing on Hugo Lloris, and we've got 3 command initiatives here. So he's going to take 2 points of shock off the team here, and he's also going to order the anti-tank gun to fire. With the 2, I'm going to get the VB team to fire at the infantry section. Okay, with the other order, the AT team, the boys team, is going to fire at the Panzer 2. And that's a miss. Okay, 8 dice with the VB team because the target hasn't moved, needing 5s and 6s. And there are, that's a good hit there, I think that's 5 hits. So it's 5 hits on this squad. We're going to use the white dice as the machine gun team. They're in the open. So 5 hits in the open, so that's 2 rifle killed, 2 machine gun killed I should say, 1 shock, and also 1 point of shock in the rifles. Is it the junior leader? Yes it is. And what happens to him? He loses 1 command. So I would normally have now to roll 1 bad thing, but I'm going to use one of the chain of command dice to ignore it. Back to the German phase. Okay. Right, so we've got 3 5s, so it takes the chain of command dice back up to 5, 1 and a 2. Right, with the 1 and the 2, I'm going to fire the main gun and the hull machine gun of the Panzer IV. There are some choices, but because I've lost the use of the mortar team, I can't use a 1, and really just working out with a 3 whether it would be better to move infantry or fire infantry, but in the end I really want to try and shift this French unit away from the building, so let's try and do it with the tank. This is our target, so let's see what we can do first of all with the high explosive, needing 4 5s and 6s. And we've got 4 hits. 1 on the VB team, that's a point of shock. That's a VB team up to 4 for the shock. We have the anti-tank team, no effect. Finally the machine gun team, that's 1 kill. Is it the junior leader? No it isn't. Whole machine gun, needing 5s, and it's not hit at all. French phase and a French double phase. I've only rolled 4 dice there. Yeah, French double phase and a 1 2 4. Okay, so with a 1 we're going to fire with the boys team again at the Panzer 2. With the 2 we'll fire again with the VB team, firing back at the German squad. And with the 4, the senior leader is going to order this team to withdraw, as well as taking off a couple of points of shock. Let's start with the anti-tank rifle. And that's a hit. Okay, 5s and 6s for a save, or for a hit with a 2. So the French have 1 hit and the Germans 1 save, so that's a net 0. So let's see what happens as a consequence of that. It's a 3. With a 3 it means the tank has to halt and fire at them next turn, which it will do if it can. It was fortunate that it wasn't a 5 or 6, which means it would have been a point of shock, which really would have knocked out that tank. But okay, so let's see how we go on with the VB team. 8 dice, needing 5s and 6s. And that looks like we've got 2 hits. White dice will be the machine gun team. And we've got 1 point of shock on the rifles. So the senior leader is going to take 2 points of shock off the team, so they're down to 1 for shock, and we're going to see if we can withdraw from the building. So let's roll 2d6. That'll be 7. I think we take 1 off for shock and difficulty of manoeuvring, but either way they can get off that out of the building there with 6 inches at best. Also second French phase. That's 5 for the chain of command dice, which takes it onto 2 for the second dice, and then we've got 2 1s and a 2. I'm going to use the 2 1s and the 2 together so I can get the senior leader active again. So he's going to make 3 commands. 1 is to move this team, this infantry team, to withdraw further. He's going to order for the anti-tank boys rifle to fire again. And thirdly, he'll order the VB team to fire its last round at the German squad. First of all, the movement of the squad, 4 inches. The anti-tank team fire, and I think that's a hit. I'll double check. 6 is actually a miss. It would be a 5, but it's a small target, but also the boys team have 1 point of shock, so that's a miss. Finally, the final round from the VB team, needing 5s and 6s, and looks like we've got 3 hits. Germans in the open. We've got white dice for the machine gun team, and that's 1 kill. We just need to check whether it's the leader or not. No, it isn't. This means that the MG team is down to 1 man with 1 point of shock at the moment. German phase. Right, we've got 1 for the chain of command, so that takes us to a full chain of command dice, and then we've got a 1, a 4 and a 3. Right, with the 3, the tank is going to fire back at the team here with HE, so I'm going to do that in a second. With a 1, this is the only 1 I've got that I can use realistically with the Germans, so they're just going to move. And with a 4, the senior leader is going to take the point of shock off the machine gun team in front of him, and he's then going to order the full squad and the section that he's with to fire at the French VB team. Let's start with the Panzer II, needing 4, 5s and 6s. That looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. Although the anti-tank team is close to the VB team, the reality is it's out of sight, so therefore we've just got 5 hits here, so it's in light cover. However, because it's HE, it's as if it's in the open, so we've got 5 hits as if we're in the open, and that's the team wiped out. Got to roll a bad thing for the French. That's a 6, so I think that might be a -2. Yes, a support unit killed on a 6 is a -2, which means the French are down to 7 on their force morale. Okay, so let's start with this team firing at the VB team. 5s to hit. And that's 5 hits. Okay, we've got 5 hits, so we'll have 3 on the VB team and 2 on this unit here. From where the MG34 is firing, it can't see this unit. Right, so 3 dice for the VB team. They're already up to 4 on shock, so 1 more and I'm going to be pinned here. And that's 2 points of shock. 2 dice on the other section. And that's 1 kill. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. We've then got 13 dice, needing 5s from the squad, which is another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits. Okay, this time the German squad that's firing can see the anti-tank team, so we're going to have 2 on the VB team, 2 on the anti-tank team, and 1 on the other squad. VB team first, and that's 1 kill. Let's see whether that's the leader. No, it isn't. 2 on the anti-tank team, and that's nothing. And 1 on the remaining squad, and that's nothing. Right, with 6 shock and 3 men, the VB team will break. So that's going to be 2d6 plus 6. So that's going to be 13 inches. Team break is also a bad thing. It's a 2, that might be nothing. No, 2 is a -1, so the French go to 6 in their force morale. And finally, with the 1, I'm going to see if this unit move, so I'm going to roll 2d6. Okay, 7 inches. Okay, move forward, and that's the end of the German phase. French phase. We could do lots there. So we've got 3 3s, a 2 and a 4. Now I've got a lot of dice here and a lot of things I can do. I'm just going to point out that whilst I was thinking about whether I could do something or not, I wasn't quite sure on one of the rules, which I then sent out to the Tabletop CP group, of which 2 people, including Scott Driscoll, came back and said, no, this is the rule you need to remember. So even though I'm playing a solo game, it's great to be able to get an answer from somebody within 10-15 seconds. So that's really useful. Right, okay, so let's start with the VB team. Now we've got 6 points of shock here, but with the 3 we're going to get the junior leader to take 2 points of shock off, so they're down to 4, so they'll be pinned. With the second 3 that I have, I'm going to take a point of shock off here with this small unit. With the 3 here, I'm going to fire 2 HE at the Germans unit over there. Okay, needing 4 5s and 6s. That's 1 hit. And 1 point of shock. And with the 4, the senior leader is going to take 2 points of shock off those 2 rifles there, and he's going to order these 2, the junior leader and the machine gun, to move so that they can form up again with that unit to make a small section. And finally, I do have a 2, but I'm not going to bring anything else onto the table, so we're off to the Germans. German phase. Another one to the chain of command onto the second dice, and we've got 2 2s and a 3. Okay, with the 4 I'm going to use the senior leader to move both of these squads further forward, as well as take 1 point of shock off the main squad. And with the 3 I'm going to move flat out with this Panzer 4. Let's start with the Panzer 4, this plus 3, oh that's disappointing, so that's just 9 inches. Okay, so we didn't go very far forward with these 2 units, but they are moving tactically, so inching their way forward. French phase. 1 2 2 3. Okay, with the 3 we're going to take off another 2 points of shock, taking this VB team down to 2. With the 4, we've got the senior leader. Senior leader is going to order the anti-tank gun to fire again, and to take a point of shock off this group and order them to fire. And they will do at the German unit just over here, which is where the anti-tank is also firing. And then finally, I've also brought on a 1, so this team has appeared here and will then fire further along here at this German unit. Anti-tank guns firing, needing 4s. I've got 1 hit, and it's as if they're in the open, and that's 1 kill. Is it the junior leader? No, it isn't. Here we've got 8 dice, needing 5s. Same target as before, and we've got 3 hits. They are tactical, so we're going to have 1 dice will be, the blue dice will be the machine gun, white dice the rifles, and we've got 1 point of shock on the rifles. And the team that's just appeared, we've got 5s and 6s, which gives us 1 2 3 4 hits. Blue dice being the machine gun team, and we've got 3 points of shock. Just standing back from the table just for a second, the French are on 6 for its force morale and the Germans on 7. Both of them have a full chain of command dice to use, and in terms of the action itself, it's really been concentrated around this area so far, but the French are still holding. They have retreated but are beginning to rally, and we've still got 2 sections to come onto the table. We've got 1 team of one of that section have appeared here, and the Germans are still really a long way away in terms of getting the French jump off points. We have the tanks, which have been semi-successful so far. This Panzer 4 is coming further forward, but the Panzer 2 has really been stopped by the anti-tank gun, and the game is very, very close, as has been the case all the way through in terms of the Gembloux gap. German phase. Right, 2 3s, a 2 and a 4. Right, well, with the 2 and the 4, I'm bringing on a new section here and a senior leader. Now, to save a bit of time, I've thought of bringing on the senior leader and then ordering this section to move at the double. And it'll also take some shock off. However, when I've rolled it, I've got 3 1s, so that's been not quite the effect I thought the senior leader would have. So the new squad are on the table, and they're going to fire at the anti-tank team. 5s and 6s. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, I think. Actually, it was just 7 hits, but we've got 4 on the anti-tank team, and then 3 on this machine gun team. Just to add, the reason why I haven't included this team, the nearest team to us here, is because they're not in the line of sight of the machine gun team. Okay, light cover, which means we've got 2 points of shock. And then the machine gun team, 1 kill. Let's see if it's the leader. No, it isn't. Right, with the 2 3s, I'm going to use both the tanks. This one's going to fire HE. It knows that they've got a target through the other side of this building, and there's lots of activity. It's completely realistic that it could fire. We've also got gaps, windows, doors, etc., so it'll fire, but I will give well, what would effectively be hard cover in here. It will be light cover when it fires. Right, so we're going to have 6 dice, needing 4 5s and 6s, and 3 hits. We're going to have 2 on the team, 1 on the anti-tank team. So let's start here. We're going to say they're in light cover, effectively, and as a result there's no effect, and with the anti-tank team, no effect either, so a bit of a waste. Yeah. First of all, we're going to move this tank. It's going to fire its main gun in a second, but we're going to go 2 dice plus 2, so it goes 7 inches. 6 dice again, needing 4 5s and 6s, just 1 hit. Be on the machine gun team. It's going to be no effect, so very much a waste of time. Now, French phase. Onto the chain of command dice, and takes it on to 3 on the second dice, and then we're going to 1 2 3 4. Right, actually it was 2 1s, not a 2. So I'm going to fire with the first team, this team here, and the rest of that section is going to appear. So it's the second team will appear with the other 1. With a 4, the senior leader is going to take a point of shock off that anti-tank team, order it to fire, and order this section to fire. And finally, with the 3, we're going to take off the 2 points of shock on this VB team. Okay, anti-tank firing, needing 4s, and that's 1 hit. 3 4 for shock, 5 6 to kill. That's a kill. And is it the leader? Yes, it is. We have there the junior leader in that section. Nobody else is within 4. Yeah, there isn't a senior leader or another junior leader within 4 inches effectively. So let's just see what happens. And he's knocked unconscious. Right, so I'm not going to avoid it by expending a chain of command dice, so let's see what the consequence is in terms of a bad thing. 2 I think is a -1. Well, in fact a 2 is nothing, so the junior leader's knocked out, but it's nothing on the force morale, which remains at 7. Same target with a small section, so it's a machine gun and 1 rifleman. Needing 5s and 6s, and that's 3 of them. They're in the open, so we've got 2 on the machine gun team, who've already lost 1 man previously. 1 on the rifles. The blue dice are going to be the machine gun. So we've got 1 killed from the rifles and 1 point of shock. Let's just check that it's not the leader. No, it isn't. And here we've now got 14 dice firing at this German unit, and we need 5s and 6s here. A couple more to roll. Alright, looks like there's some big numbers there. That's 7 hits. So let's see how that goes on. Right, the unit is tactical, so 4-5 for shock, 6 to kill, and the white dice are going to be the rifle team. Couple of kills there, so 2 killed in the rifle. Let's see if it's the junior leader. No, it isn't. Right, it's the German phase, and this advance really has slowed down, so let's see if we can get a decent roll. Well, it's a double phase, so that's helpful. And then we've got a 3, a 1 and a 2. Okay, with the 1 and the 3, I'm going to get both of these sections or squads moving at the double, and the senior leader will also take 1 point of shock off the teams moving, remembering the fact that each team will have to add a point of shock. Also, the team at the front will be slowed by the fact that they do have some shock already, so I'll work that out, but that's the order there. And with the 2, I'm going to fire the team here, so I'll fire with the MG34, so it's 8 dice firing at the French infantry that's fired a moment ago. Okay, MG34 needing 5s and 6s. We've got a couple of hits. 1 on the rifle team, 1 on the MG team for the French. The white is the machine gun. So we have a point of shock with each team. Okay, so let's do the moving at the double. So the front squad has to take 2 from this roll. So let's start there. Okay, it's a good move though. So in total it can move 11 inches. The unit behind them, they go a total of 9 inches. Right, that's the end of that phase, and that's at least the Germans moving forward. So and they have another phase. 4 dice this time. So we have 2 3s and a 1. Okay, senior leader is going to do it again, but this time the front unit there is just going to move normally. The unit at the back is going to move at the double, and with the other 3, I'm going to activate the Panzer IV. The Panzer IV is going to fire the main gun in here, and it's also going to move in a moment. So anyway, we need 4 5s and 6s with HE. 2 hits. It's firing at this unit, and it's in line of sight, so effectively this is going to be in the open. So we've got for each team, white dice is going to be the machine gun team, and so we've got another point of shock for each of the 2 teams. I'm also going to move this +2, and it's going to move 8 inches. Okay, so the Panzer IV's moved. Now let's see about the infantry. Team at the front, I'm just going to move normally. That's 8 inches. 1 behind are moving at the double, -1 for shock. So they go 9 inches. Okay, we've got a French phase coming up, but so see some changes in the game now with the Germans advancing well on the right hand side. It's going to be a challenge to stop them. We've got only 1 French section remaining to come on the board. In the middle, we've got both the tanks getting into position for support. On the left hand side we're struggling again. This has been an area where the Germans really haven't been able to make a great deal of advance, and they're really being held back by the French here. So let's see what we get in the French phase. 1 to the chain of command dice. Take it on to 4 for the second dice. We've got a 1, 2 and 2 4s, so unless we're bringing on the second senior leader, which we can, then it's a bit of a waste. Let's see what we do. Okay, 4 and 2, so we've brought in the final section up in this room. We've got the senior leader with them, so we're going to fire out the window at the Germans advancing over here. We're going to abandon this we're going to abandon this jump-off point at some point very shortly, but that's really going to be our final defensive position for the French. With the 1, we're going to move this team in that direction, see if we can give support. And then over here with our senior leader, we're going to have everything fire once again. So we've got our section, our machine gun section, our anti-tank gun, and then we've got this whole section again to fire at the German infantry. I'll do the easy thing and move the team first. Oh, it only goes 3 inches. I've had another look at this, and this team really can't see the Germans who've now advanced. So instead, I'm going to take a point of shock off one of these teams here with the senior leader, as well as asking them to fire and the anti-tank gun to fire. So anti-tank gun needing 4 5s and 6s, misses. 13 dice needing 5s. Let's see some there. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. 4 5 shock, 6 to kill with the blue dice on the rifle team. Not great shooting, but 2 points of shock on the machine gun team, which I think will mean it's now pinned. Actually, the shock is 4 on 2 men, which means this team breaks. It's 2d6 plus 6, so 11 inches. Bad thing happens. Team breaks, and a 4 is a -1, I'm sure. That's right, -1, so the Germans are now down to 6. Finally, we're going to have a machine gun and 2 rifles firing out of the window. It's certainly out of the angle, but I'm going to say they're going to poke out the window, so I'm going to give a penalty. I'll not use the 2 rifles, we'll just say it's a machine gun. So we've got 6 dice firing at the Germans over here, who I'll also say are in hard cover. 6 dice, 5s and 6s to hit. 2 hits. Hard cover means it'll be 5 for shock, 6 to kill. White dice will be the machine gun team, and no effect. This game really couldn't be any closer. We've got 1 chain of command dice spare for both. They're both on 6 for the force morale. Now let's see what the Germans get in this phase. We've got a 5, 2 4s and a 3, and I've only rolled 4 dice and a 1. Right, so we've got 1 to the chain of command dice, which takes it up to 2 on the second dice. Both senior leaders can be activated here, and a 1 and a 3. Right, the 4 on this side means that the both units are going to move, and the senior leader is going to take off a point of shock. Panzer is going to fire and move, as it did beforehand. Senior leader here is going to order this machine gun team to fire, and then I think is going to move in order to get near enough to this one to take off a point of shock. And with a 1, this rather forgotten unit is going to move further forward. So let's start with the easy movement forward, which is 6 inches. The senior leader movement, that's fine to get close to the other unit, and it's going to take off the point of shock I mentioned a moment ago. So this unit is now pinned rather than routing. The 8 dice of the remaining machine gun team that is ordered to fire, firing at this French unit again, needing 5s and 6s, and only 1 hit. As the defender has the choice about what they would have, I'll say it's on the rifle team, and that is a point of shock. Now the Panzer firing HE, needing 4 5s and 6s, 3 hits. 2 on the machine gun team, 1 on the rifles. The black dice is the rifles. 1 kill amongst the machine gun team, and let's see if it's the leader. No, it isn't. Panzer 4 then moves, and it's 13 inches because you get +1 per dice. Okay, that's significant tank movement, so let's see about the movement of the infantry over on the right flank. Okay, so the front squad moving 2d6 -2 because of the shock. They'll go 5 inches. 1 behind them, also 5 inches. Sorry, my mistake, actually it'll be 4 because they'll lose that for shock. Now it's the French phase. It's really interesting that we've got our anti-tank gun it's pointing in the wrong direction now if it wants to fire at the tank. So we need to move, but we'll see also whether the tank manoeuvres out of the way. We're getting to the crux really of this battle. So French phase, if we've got a double phase, be very useful. Yes, they have. So it's a French double phase, 2 3s and a 2. So I'm going to say we're going to manoeuvre the anti-tank gun. So it's going to point, so it can hit the Panzer 4 potentially. I'm also going to say we can see through the building, because I think the tanks have been firing HE through it, so I think there's going to be enough gaps to be able to do so. So very much thinking about playing the game, not the rules, as it were. So yes, I'm going to make a decision that they can do that. And also we've got a junior leader here, so we can take the final points of shock off. Here we have the section to fire, and the junior leader will take off a point of shock also. Finally, with the 2, we're going to fire this machine gun out of the window. We're going to fire again with the machine gun out of the window here. Rather than the whole section, we're just going to have 6 dice for the machine gun. Needing 5s and 6s. And I've got 3 hits. I'm going to say really that we've got light cover rather than hard cover here. It's just broken buildings is what we're representing. It's not as obscured as it was beforehand. So as a consequence, it's 4-5 for shock, 6 to kill. The blue dice indicate the machine gun team. So we've lost 1 from the machine gun team. I think that team now is down to 1 man. Might well be pinned, but let's see if it's the senior leader. No, it isn't. In fact, the team goes down to 1 man and it's got 2 points of shock, so it will in fact break. 2d6 plus 6. So we've got 10 inches. Also a bad thing for the Germs, a 1, so team breaks on a 1 is nothing, so the morale stays at 6. Right, we've now got 12 dice firing at this German squad on the left hand side. 5s and 6s. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. We're all on the same team in light cover, and therefore we've got 2 points of shock. I've got 4 points of shock and 4 men, so they're not quite pinned. Now we've got a second French phase with 4 dice rather than 5. 1 to the chain of command dice takes it to 5. We've got a 2, a 3 and a 4. Now, although I could fire from the anti-tank gun, because we've now got a command to do so, I'm going to interrupt with the Germans, and I'm going to move this tank 2d6 plus 2. So I've used a chain of command dice to do so, and you get plus 2 for this, so we get 7 inches in total. Right, so we've moved 7 inches. We're now obscured from the anti-tank gun, and we're very close to this infantry, so I have to have a think about what the infantry want to do. Okay, so with the 3, we're going to take off 2 points of shock. With the 4, we're going to order this section to move. We're going to manoeuvre the anti-tank again, so it's a better angle for when the tank comes further forward, if it does, assuming it does. And then the senior leader is also going to order that section to fire at the tank, see if we get some kind of reaction with the machine gun. And with the 2, we're going to fire again, this time at the rifles over on the other side there. So with the shock taken off, we're going to now withdraw with the French. 6 inches. Now this machine gun can fire at the tank. It can't knock it out, but it can get through the machine gun slits, things like that, and cause a bit of panic. So all we have to do here is to do a save for the armour of the Panzer 4, which is 4 dice. If it's a 5 and 6, nothing happens. If we don't get that, then we need to roll on the net 0 table. So let's just start here. And we've got a save, so nothing happens. Final action is the machine gun firing from this window. 6 dice, needing 5s and 6s. 2 hits, both of them will fall on the rifle team, and no effect. Now it's the German phase. And we have a 1, 2, 1 and a 3. Well, I could move both tanks. I've got the dice to do so. And So instead we're going to start with the French interrupting, and we're going to fire with the anti-tank gun. We've used a chain of command dice to do this. Anti-tank firing, and that's a hit. Okay, 5 dice for the French, 4 for the Germans, needing 5s and 6s. Can't see any 5s there for the French, and 1 for the Germans, so that's been no effect. Right, with the 3, first thing we're going to do is fire back at the anti-tank team. 6 dice for HE. 4 5s and 6, we've got 4 hits. And from that we've got 3 kills. Now we've got 2 officers there, so we need to see whether it might be one of them. No, it's not. And the next thing we're going to do with that Panzer IV is drive in that direction. Right, we go 2d6 plus 2 inches and hope that we don't roll a double, which is exactly what we have done. And so the Panzer IV would have reached it, other than the fact that it's now stuck. It can be activated subsequently to try and get off the position, but that's where it is at the moment. Right, with the 2 and the 1, I'm going to activate the other tank, and they're going to move. That's going to move also. 2d6 plus 2 goes 10 inches. Right, the Panzer II has now appeared around the corner, although again it's not close enough to roll over the anti-tank gun. And with the final 1, I'm going to use this team to move to that jump-off point. That's 9, and although I think we'll lose a couple for shock, it'll certainly get there. French phase. 1 to the chain of command dice. Now it's got a full chain of command dice. 1, 2 2s and a 4. Right, with a 4, the senior leader is going to get the anti-tank gun to fire, and also is going to add 2 command initiatives to it, so make sure we hit. With the 2, we're going to get this section to fire with a machine gun at the Panzer II, see if we can dislodge it. And then with the 1 and the 2, we're going to move with this section, and also we can take it a point of shock off. Let's start with the anti-tank at the Panzer IV. Ooh, that's 12 now. I don't know whether that might be a critical hit. Certainly is a critical hit. So let's see what the outcome is. I said it's a 5. So the Germans have 2 and the French have 1, 2, 3, 4. So plus 2 for the French. And what's the outcome of that? 6. Right, the 6 means the main gun is out of action for the rest of the game. This unit is now withdrawn another 5 inches. Finally, the machine gun team are now going to fire at the Panzer II. Panzer II needs to get a 5 or 6 to ignore it, otherwise we're going to have a look at what it's like on the net zero table. But it's got a 6, so it ignores the machine gun fire. German phase once again. German double phase, 2 4s and a 3. Now, although it's a German phase, I'm going to interrupt with the anti-tank gun, and I'm going to move it and hope potentially that if the Panzer II is going to try and trample it, it doesn't make enough space, or enough distance I should say, or it gets trapped on top of the hedge. Either way, but I'm going to move that anti-tank gun. Okay, let's see what kind of distance we get. Not very much, 5 inches. Well, before I do anything else, I'm going to try the 3, and I'm going to see if this Panzer II can just literally drive straight forward and see what happens. And I'm conscious that there is Hugo Lloris standing right in front of it, so yeah, let's see what happens. Right, let's see how the tank goes. 11 inches. It doesn't get trapped, and I think it might well trample a few people in front of it. I think in reality, over the 11 inches, I think the only person who's going to hit actually is Hugo Lloris. Okay, well, the way the test would be is you would normally roll to see if you can get above your shock level, but there the officers are impervious to shock. Therefore, what he will do is he can move in any direction 2d6 to get out the way and evade the tank. So that's what we'll do. So that's 9 inches. And conveniently that takes him 9 inches here with the anti-tank gun. Although, admittedly, it's the German phase next. And here's the final position of where the Panzer II will end up. With the first 4, the senior leader is going to take 2 points of shock off this unit and then get them to move back into the fray. Over on this side, the senior leader took off a point of shock from each team, and then they rolled a double 1 in terms of moving, so they've hardly moved at all. End of that phase, so Germans now, a 2, a 3 and a 4. Right, with the 3, I'm going to fire a coax machine gun at the anti-tank team. 4 5s and 6s with 8 dice. And we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 hits. 3, 4 shock, 5, 6 kill. That's 3 kills. Is it the leader? No, it isn't. So therefore, we have knocked out the anti-tank team. Actually, I've realised that we've only got 2 men on the gun and the junior leader. We have 3 kills. Therefore, I'm going to say it is the junior leader rather than the junior or the senior. So let's see what happens to him. He's killed. Right, 2 things. We've lost a support unit and we've also lost a junior leader. So let's start off with the junior leader in terms of a bad thing. It's just a 1. That might just be a 1. And support unit lost. That's a 2, so I'm going to have a check. Consequence there is that we've got a -1 for the loss of the anti-tank team and the junior leader, so the French are down to 4. Right, with the remainder of the moves, the senior leader over here has moved the unit as well as taking a point of shock off. And with the 2, I've moved this unit, this section, squad I should say, 7 inches further forward. Down to 4, the French now are down to 4 dice. 1 for the chain of command dice, and a 2 and a 3. Right, I think in absolute desperation, I'm going to see if I can move with this unit just the other side of the hedge, turn around and fire at half effect and see if we can affect the tank that way. Let's see if we can get a decent roll to move, and definitely not. So I honestly think that, well, every effort is going to take place to actually get over the hedge. Not sure. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the 2 effectively to have gone over the hedge there with that larger team, but I am going to say that this team next to the tank can fire at it to see if we can fire a weak spot in this similar way. So that means I've used the 2 and the 3 in the 2 dice for the French, but in terms of the tank I need to roll a 5 or 6 to see if it's impacted, and I haven't rolled a 5 or 6 for either of them. So let's see if we were on the neutral, on the net 0 and rolled a 5, what's the impact? Right, a 5 means it has to reverse 1d6 and also takes a point of shock, which means it has 3 shock in total, and therefore the vehicle is going to be abandoned. See how far back, 1 inch. Okay, 1 bad thing, support unit routes. That's going to be a -1. Yeah, that's a -1, so the Germans are down to 5 in force morale. German phase. 2 4s, a 3 and a 2. 5 takes us to 3 on the chain of command dice, and we'll see what we can do with the 3 and the 2. With the 3 I'm going to activate the Panzer IV, see if we can get off the hedge that it's stuck on. Don't roll a 1. No, it needs a 5 and 6 to do it, and the driver can't get the tank off. So we could, in theory, use the machine gun in the turret. However, the main gun's been knocked out, and I think in the position that it is, I don't think it's realistic that the tank could manoeuvre in such a way to fire at the senior leader standing here on his own. With the 4, the senior leader is going to get the whole section to fire at the French who are just next to the tank, and he'll also take the 2 points of shock off that individual in front of him. 13 dice needing 5s and 6s. Looks like 3 hits. 4 5 shock and 6 to kill. That's 1 kill and 1 point of shock. Is it the junior leader? No, it isn't. This section here is going to move at the double. So 9 in total. Right, I have the senior leader here with a command initiative of 3. And we've moved, which is 1 command, into what was the same section beforehand. I'm going to reform it. I don't know off the top of my head how many command initiatives that takes, but we're not going to do anything else in this particular phase. Okay, it's the French phase. I think we need to get that senior leader out of the way. That's good because he can move. We've got another 3 and a 4. Right, the first thing I'm going to do with the senior leader is move. 5 inches. What he's going to do is to order that team to turn and fire at the Panzer 4, see if we can give him a bit of shock. Right, Panzer 4 needs to get 5 or 6 on these 5 dice, and they have, so it's no effect. Okay, I don't see why the junior leader here couldn't support the machine gunner just to fire back at the Germans over on just past this hedge. 5s and 6s. Lots of hits. 4. 2 on the machine gun, 2 on the rifles. White dice is the rifles, and they're in light cover. See a kill there. So we've got the machine gun, we've got 1 kill and 1 point of shock. Let's just see if it's the leader. No, it isn't. Senior leader up here orders again to fire from the machine gun at the rifle team over there. 5s and 6s. And we do have 2 hits. What's the outcome? Nothing. German phase. 2 2s, a 4 and a 3. Try and move this tank again, and we can. So we'll see how far it would move. Potentially 6 inches, and then it'll have another activity, or another activation. Right, it does have another activation, and it's going to fire at this unit in front of it. 6 times 4, 5 and 6 is high explosive, and that's 3 hits. Effectively in the open. And that's 2 points of shock, and that team will break. Actually, that's my mistake. It won't break. It's still got 3 points of shock, and there's 2 people, so no, it won't break yet. Right, first thing we're going to do with the senior leader here, we've got a 4, so we're going to order the sections of fire, so we'll start with that. 13 dice firing at that target of 2 men. See if we can get them shifted eventually. Needing 5s and 6s. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hits. Let's see what happens with those 6 hits. We have 2 killed. 1 has to be the junior leader. Let's see what happens to him. And he's killed. 2 bad things. We've got a team wiped out. So 5, so that's probably a -1. And a junior leader killed. 5, that's probably a -2. Yeah, team wiped out and a junior leader killed is -3 in total, so the French are down to 1. Right, at this stage with the French down to 1, I'm going to call it a day. I think we have to be realistic that as the French retreat here, we still have the French commander, and I think what it would do is simply withdraw his troops. We have some in the building, we have a senior leader in there as well, and you know, there isn't anything that they can do now to stop the Panzer 4, or in reality, although we could have a firefight, I think, with the Germans advancing here and eventually advancing here on the left flank, the truth is that with 1 dice it can do very, very little at all. So on the 5th, or at the 5th attempt, the Germans have been successful and move on to the next stage in the campaign, and it's been a valiant effort from the French at Pebay. And so a final wrap up to the game. So in terms of the campaign itself, it's now the end of turn 5. The Germans have got through the first stage, as it were, but now it means they're going to have to win all 5 of the remaining games, the remaining scenarios, in order to win ultimately the campaign. Now, as far as this game is concerned, obviously those who've played the campaign themselves will know that we didn't have armour in the original campaign details. However, as I've said through the other games, it's actually due to the nature of this table. It's quite thin, 8 foot by 3 foot, and therefore it's been at a disadvantage to use when we've tried to use both flanks, which has been really fairly difficult. So I added in the armour, and indeed ultimately we had success with the armour, and then also being able to use the Germans here on the right flank. So it's been a good finish to this game. So let's just have a look at the campaign details and how it affects things. Now, it would seem very strange to have an emotional attachment to figures. However, I was very pleased that ultimately Hugo Lloris managed to get off the table with his troops, because he has been a fantastic leader for all 5 games, including the bravery of this game, leading the anti-tank gun. And yes, we won't see him again because this platoon is now replaced for the remainder of the game. However, I do think it's been an excellent game, excellent 5 games here on this table, and all of it has been led by Lloris. So au revoir to him, but a fantastic leader. Now, with regards to Otto Marner, he has his first success, and therefore moves on to the next scenario. He will have a better support in terms of his senior leader. His commander is pleased with this engagement, but he's still on a -4. So unfortunately that is a -1 to the support. And his men, well, they're happy with this engagement. They raised by 2 points, but they're still at -3, so it still means we have a -1 on our force morale. Now, as I mentioned, we don't have the same French platoon moving forward, so we just really need to consider about the Germans. Now, in terms of force morale, they finished 4 ahead of the French on this game, and therefore ultimately they only had 1 man killed when we calculate it. Now, in terms of the campaign, we've used an extra platoon, so actually we have 3 platoons essentially for the Germans. And just referring back to the first platoon, it and this platoon, the second platoon, for the rest of the campaign, we will now have a situation where they will be down 1 squad. So they've got 2 full squads, and then the third platoon, which we may deploy in the next scenario, that as standard has 3 full squads. If you do have any thoughts, any ideas or comments, then please put it in on the YouTube channel, on the comments there. It's really helpful. And for those who are watching the game but aren't subscribed, then please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just click on that and click on the bell as well, and you'll get all of the games as they come through. So also, if you go through the YouTube channel itself, there's well over 30 different videos you can watch, all sorts of different things in terms of different games, as well as some painting stuff, some buildings, etc. put together. So that's really good to follow. In addition, there's also a Facebook group. There's 2 in particular. One is the Chain of Command France 1940 Facebook group, and the second is the Wargaming World Facebook group. If you want to join either of those, just go to the group itself and just apply for that, and I'll confirm it, and you can join the group and continue the discussion. So thanks once again for watching, and let's see how the French and Germans do next time on this Gembloux campaign.